I'm Miss Shram, and we are talking all about the clouds and the moon. So let me get this going. Okay, so at the end of my little section, you'll be able to observe, describe, and illustrate objects in the sky, such as the clouds and the moon. So first, we're going to talk about clouds. Now, what are clouds made of? Whoops. So what are clouds? A cloud is made up of millions of tiny little water droplets or ice crystals floating together in the air. So we can see the water in the sky forms clouds. And depending on how much water and how high in the sky, that changes what type of clouds we are seeing. So there's going to be 4 different types of clouds we talk about today. There are much, much more. But in pre-K and kindergarten, we're just going to talk about these 4. These are the main, most important ones. Okay, so the first kind, like when you draw a cloud in class or at home, when you draw those big, round, fluffy clouds that look like a big ball of cotton candy, those are called cumulus clouds. They're middle in the sky. They're fluffy and puffy, and you see them when there's nice weather. So you might see a few floating by, but you've got a nice blue sky with some cumulus clouds spread out. And like I said, those are middle height. Now, cumulus clouds are a lot of fun because sometimes if you use your imagination, you can see different shapes, right? So I found these 2 pictures from online, and this one is a heart-shaped cloud, and that one I'm pretty sure happened naturally. The other one is a bunny, but I don't think that happened in nature. I think someone photoshopped that one a little bit so we could see a bunny. But if you use your imagination, just like when you look at the stars at night, sometimes in the clouds you could see different shapes. So this artist took pictures of the sky and then probably used their tablet or their iPad to sketch on top some little cartoon animals that they saw. So this one, they thought they saw a kitty cat, and the other one, it looks like they found a short little dog. So if you use your imaginations when you go outside, you can probably see different shapes and animals in the clouds too. All right. Oop. Next is cirrus clouds. So I told you cumulus looks like the big balls of cotton candy. Cirrus clouds look like when you take some off to share with your friend, or you take some off to pop in your mouth. It looks like that shredded cotton candy. It's feathery. These are higher up in the sky. There's less because they're not as thick, right? So they're white and wispy and feathery, and you see these also in nice weather. So you'll see these high up in the sky and plenty of blue, and usually these will be in nice weather. So both those clouds so far have been white colored clouds. That means they're not very dense with water, so they're still white. When they get more full, they turn darker, like gray. So the gray clouds mean there's more water and there's more likely going to be some rain. So stratus clouds are lower in the sky. Think about it. They're probably heavier. They're very full of water. They fill up the whole sky. You can't see very much blue at all. You can't see like any blue. So they're filling up the sky with gray like a blanket. And these happen when there's going to be cloudy weather. So if you see a lot of stratus clouds like this picture, you might be thinking that it might rain a little bit. Maybe parts of the day you're going to get a little sprinkle of rain, a little drizzle of rain, and it's going to be cloudy weather. Then my favorite, not that, is the cumulonimbus. So these are big, tall, and wide clouds. So these clouds are not low in the sky, medium, or high. They're all 3. So these clouds are huge. They'll fill up the sky. They can be dark, and depending on what kind of storms you're going to experience, they could be different colors, like different dark colors, kind of greenish, kind of like darkish blue, dark gray, almost black. So cumulonimbus clouds, of course, means you're going to have stormy weather. So you could see in this picture, you could see lightning. If you were standing in this field when this picture was taken, you could probably hear thunder. You might feel some rain starting to fall. So these clouds mean you got to get inside because there's going to be a storm. And they're my favorite because I like summer storms. Okay, next, at nighttime, mostly, sometimes you can see the moon during the day, but mainly you want to observe the moon at night. So we're going to talk a little bit about phases of the moon, because if you go out every night for a month, you would see something different every night. And over time, throughout the month, the appearance of the moon changes. The moon itself stays the same, but what you can see of the moon changes. So let's see a little more of what I'm talking about. So we know that we are out in space, and the moon is like our little sister. She's following us around. So she's circling around the moon. Around the Earth. That's called orbiting. And while at the same time, we are orbiting around the sun. So we are circling around there. So the moon is kind of like our little sister because she's along for the ride, following, right? So depending on where the moon is in relation to the Earth, changes how much we can see of the moon. What on earth does that mean, Ms. Rapp? Well, the sunlight is coming from the sun, like those little arrows. The sun rays are hitting the moon. So you can see on this little moon, half of it is white because it's lit up by the sun's rays. Then the other half is dark. Same thing with the Earth. Half of it is light because they're having daytime. Then half of the Earth is dark because they're having nighttime. So depending on where the moon is how much of the moon we can see. So let's see what that looks like. On a full moon, we can see the moon full and bright, a big full circle. We can see the whole face of the moon. So it looks like a big bright circle. And we know it's being illuminated by the sun. A lot of kids think that the moon makes its own light, but just like we saw in the last slide, the sun is shining onto the moon and reflecting, kind of like a big mirror. So we can see that the moon is lit up. So if you go outside on January 17th with your grown-up, that's next Monday night, you'll be able to see a full moon. So our next one here is January 17th. Then if you were to keep going outside night after night, you would notice the moon got darker. So only part of the moon is visible. So this is called a quarter moon. We can only see part of the face of the moon, and the other is covered in darkness, a shadow. So we could see a quarter moon here. And if you kept going outside, you would start to see a crescent moon. So you can see that shadow is growing and covering more and more of the moon. And eventually, if you kept going outside until January 31st, you would see a new moon. Only a sliver of the moon is lit up. So it's really hard to see. Only a little bit is there. So it's like a big pattern. It's called the phases of the moon. So it's a lunar cycle. Every month, it goes through these phases. So we see a new moon where it's all dark, and slowly it becomes more illuminated. The sun is hitting the moon, and we can see more and more until it's a full moon. And then all of a sudden, it starts to get darker and darker again until it's back to a new moon and ready for a new month. All right, so that is all I have for the moon. But I did want to show you a quick craft that you can try at school or at home. And this is just to remember the different types of clouds. So I had fun making these. You just need a couple cotton balls and a piece of paper and a little bit of Elmer's glue, like the runny glue. So I made some cumulus clouds, the big and fluffy ones. Then I made some cirrus clouds, the feathery, thin ones. Then the cumulonimbus, which was my favorite, the big, tall, wide, dark clouds for storms. And then the stratus clouds that are like a gray blanket. So that's just a fun idea to help you remember your types of clouds. That's all I have for you, and I can't wait to see you next time.